this.
Yes, the story is about a person by the name Al-Qanabi. He is a very famous person in Islamic literature, and I'm sure most people have never heard even of his name,
Yeah,
let alone his story.
I haven't.
Okay, Al-Qanabi was a drunkard, and that is like 1200 years ago. And he was in Al-Kufa in Iraq.
Iraq, yeah.
So he was sitting in front of his house and he was drinking. He was holding the wine bottle in one hand, and he had a knife in his, in his left hand. So as he was sitting there watching people and waiting for his friends to come and drink with him, so he saw a man on the back of a donkey, and there is a big number of people following him. They are holding the donkey by the rope, and people are walking behind the sheikh and respecting him. And he said, who is this guy? If he is so important, why doesn't he get himself a horse, not a donkey? So he walked up to the sheikh and said, who is this guy? So they said, Subhanallah, you don't know Shu'bat ibn al-Hajjaj? He said, what is Shu'bat? What does he sell? Who is this guy? They said, Shu'bat ibn al-Hajjaj is the biggest scholar of hadith of his time.
Subhanallah.
He narrates a hadith from the Prophet ﷺ. So he said, why didn't you tell me a hadith from the Prophet ﷺ? One hadith. They said, what's wrong with you? People travel hundreds of miles to come and sit under his feet to learn a hadith from the Prophet ﷺ, and you're coming with a knife in one hand and a bottle of wine on the other, and you want to learn of hadith? Get away from here, man. He said, by Allah, if he doesn't teach me one hadith from the Prophet ﷺ now, I'm going to stab him to death. So this scholar, he knows.
Was the scholar hearing him through this?
Yes, of course.
Okay.
So he knew that sometimes the best type of bravery is to be a coward, just like sometimes the best thing you can say is to be quiet. And those who are married, they know what I'm talking about. So he was afraid for his life. So he said, I'm going to tell you one hadith and just move on. He said, the Prophet ﷺ says, إِذَا لَمْ تَسْتَحِي فَاصْنَعْ مَا شِئْتَ. So the Prophet ﷺ says, if you don't have taqwa, if you don't have haya, this sense of shame from yourself or the people or Allah,
then do whatever you wish.
Do whatever you want. Then he left him and moved on with the people behind him. So when this man, Al-Qanabi, went to his house, he started to think, was he talking about me? I don't have haya from Allah or the people of myself? This man shook me to the core. He stabbed me in the heart. He threw away the bottle of wine. He broke all the bottle of wines he had, and he told his mother, when my friends come and ask about me to go out and drink together, tell them I quit. Then he traveled all the way to Medina of the Prophet ﷺ, and he studied hadith under Malik ibn Anas ibn Malik, the companion of the Prophet ﷺ, and he became one of the biggest scholars of hadith of his time.
Subhanallah.
You will never know, some of his students were Al-Bukhari and Muslim. If you read in their introductions to their collections of hadith, they say we learned a lot of hadith from our teacher Al-Qanabi. So he had a pure heart, and he found someone who gave him a good advice. There are so many good Muslims who live around. The only thing they need is a good advice from a caring person.